Hello and welcome to the GMIHub Live. We are so glad you're here today. The GMIHub Online is here. We're going to be talking about songwriting. In particular, we're going to talk about the area of connecting with your listeners. We've got with an emotional way of connecting with people and trying to write your songs in that manner. We've got Trevor and Rhonda, which my dear friend Cheryl is going to introduce to you a bit more and get to know them as we talk this day. So thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget that we are live and streaming on our YouTube channel, the GMIHub Online, and you can actually tell a friend, share this experience, let them know that we are live and we're doing this right here, right now, and you can share this experience with those around you. That'd be fantastic.
And don't forget that you can like and subscribe this video if you want to. Hi, I'm Cheryl. I'm so glad to see you all here. And I am so glad that we have Trevor and Rhonda with us. Let me talk to what we're going to talk about. I don't think Dale said what we're going to talk about.
Not really.
Okay, we are going to talk about how to capture emotion in your music. If you are a songwriter or a musician, this is a conversation you'll want to tap into, because maybe you're using different techniques to capture something, but maybe like some of us, we know we want to get a certain sound or a certain ambiance to our music, and you just don't know what to do. Well, Trevor and Rhonda are here, and they're going to share what they do with their music and share their background as well. Trevor is a composer. He's a music teacher. He's a producer. He's trained in classical composition. He's a graduate, a bachelor and a master's of music. And he has created a number of compositions, two of which I think, or some of them that have been in some documentaries. So here is Trevor Hewer. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Cheryl.
And all the way from Calgary, we have Rhonda Louise.
You bet. Hi.
Rhonda is a singer. She's a songwriter who has a lot of music that has been described as honest, contemplative, encouraging, relatable, moving, strong, soothing, calming. These are just the words that are being used to describe her music. And when she describes herself and her own music, she says it's like her own musical diary. She'll tell us more about this, but I just want to say welcome, Rhonda. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is a lot of fun. And how fun is it to see faces?
Yeah.
Right?
I know,
Like I got to put on lip gloss. I can put on lip gloss because someone's going to see it.
Oh, boy.
And it doesn't get buried behind the mask.
Right.
Right.
Gosh.
Well, I want to get started with let's tap a little bit into your backgrounds. I want to ask, what was your start in writing the music that you write? And I'm not sure who to start with first. Trevor, how about you start?
Sure, just sort of how we got into the path we've been going on. Yeah. It was interesting just while we were chatting beforehand, Cheryl, we were talking, the name Mike Jansen came up because we were trying to figure out if Rhonda had any relation. And it so happens Mike Jansen was one of my former piano teachers when he was over he used to teach out in Burlington in our old church. And it was kind of a cool, I won't relate it in too much detail, but I was having a piano lesson at the time it was called Brant Bible Church, great big wooden sanctuary, nice Yamaha, I think it was a grand piano that they just let us have our lessons on. And I was the last lesson of the night, and he had brought his computer and his recording gear, and he was going to record the piano after my lesson for, I think it was a nature documentary he told me it was for. And so we finished the lesson, he boots up the computer, he says, "Hey, do you want to hear what I'm working on so far?" And I said, "Sure, that's great." So he opens the project, gets the play thing ready to go. I put on the headphones and he hits play, and my world just goes like sideways. It was, I just remember hearing strings and drums, and I was so profoundly impacted in that moment, and something clicked, and I was like, I want to do this for other people, whatever it takes. And that was that's what started it all for me.
Cool.
Amazing. So we have to get Mike Jansen on this show. He has such an impact
Yeah.
already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rhonda, how was it for you? How did your
I
journey towards music begin?
I don't remember not being able to play. My mom plays piano very well, and she had a piano when I was a baby. And as soon as I could sit by myself as a little one, she would just let me go on her piano. And then I took lessons throughout my childhood. And then once I learned how to play by ear and using chords and things, then I started writing. I think I started writing poetry when I was about 12. This is before journal writing was popular. And that's how I expressed my stress or just thoughts and feelings. And then around 14, I think, is when I started writing music, which were just copies of the songs I already liked. I thought, no, you can't just learn how to play it. You have to learn how to write something that no one else has heard before. And so it became a learning curve. What has really helped me is attending the Gospel Music Association of Canada conferences. And something that stuck out for me at one of those conferences was, please do not call our radio station and say, oh, but God gave me this song. That doesn't make it a good song.
Mm-hmm.
Songwriting is a craft. It is work. It is something that you put your gifts and your talent and your time and a lot of thought into. Now, I have written a song in 20 minutes. I wrote In Jesus' Arms in 20 minutes, thinking about what it'd be like as a mom to lose one of my sons. But other songs like Brave Girl, that took 5 months, because that was a tough one. What do I say? How do I say this? What can I say? What can get put on a hard copy disc or go on radio? And so it's always a learning curve of what needs to be in the song. I co-write with my producer a lot, where he's really good at compacting the idea, whereas I tend to come in with like 15 lines of the same thought, and he's like, okay,
Totally.
It's like a 6-minute song, let's break it down. So I don't remember not playing. I wrote my first, I guess, real song. I was 18. I was in Bible school. We were going to have a fall talent show. And I thought, I want to write one for this. And so it was a grand piano. I would go into the Bible school chapel and play on the grand piano, and I wrote a reminisce. And so I performed it at that talent show. It was later performed at my wedding when I married my husband, where we met at that Bible school. And it landed on my first CD. And so songwriting just grew after that in life experiences.
That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Very cool.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
When you begin writing, is there any time you say I have to write, or is there time you say, oh, I can't help, I got to write this down, or is it both?
It's usually very spur of the moment. Like the family knows if the door is closed, do not bug mom. She's in a thought. She's got to get it down before she forgets it.
Right.
Actually, I come up with most of my songs in the car.
Mm-hmm.
I love long drives by myself. I'll think of a line, a word, a theme, an idea, something I'd want to say, but how do I say it gentler? I actually did come up with one song while I was in the shower. I was getting ready to meet a friend who I knew was struggling. And I was thinking, boy, I know you're hurting more than you ever have. And I didn't even get to blow dry my hair. I just grabbed my paper and pen right afterwards and just wrote all of it. And that song got written in maybe 5 minutes.
And that's the thing about inspiration.
Exactly.
inspiration. It strikes in the middle. It's like a lightning storm. Where'd that come from? Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, and then I tweaked it a little bit, right, to
Mhm.
craft it a little better. But yeah.
So Trevor, when you write, do you have a conscious theme that you're thinking about, or is it sometimes you're just inspired to write and it comes from your heart?
I think it's a mix for me. Sometimes it does come like on drives or walks, sometimes just in those in-between moments. Sometimes it is a discipline too. Like maybe when we like later talk about sort of how we get through the actual process, I find pen to paper, actually writing like musical notation. That's sort of how I've been trained at school, but I find that I'm able to trace a thought and follow with it get the most longevity out of it that way. So there is the discipline side to it, but I've also a few times now I'm in a basement apartment right now, so I haven't had it happen too much, but my parents have a grand piano at their house, and occasionally I would be practicing and make a mistake, and I'm sure it's all happened to you. You're like, wait a second, that was cool. Quick, get the phone, go. And then just try and replicate it.
Sure.
And then it becomes the hook.
Yeah. So sometimes
I record voice memos on my phone. If I'm out hiking or walking, I'll pull up my phone really quick and record a voice memo. Actually, a lot of Brave Girl was recorded on my voice memo on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a great tool. So that's what those who are watching at home right now. If you're looking to write stuff, get your phone and just do the lyrics, or sometimes you can hum a melody, and when you get back to your instrument, you can actually start to try and put those and marry the instrument with your vocal. It's a great tool. And that's another thing that besides we talked about the lyrics and how to write, but when it comes to the music, there's a certain some people have a certain recipe where they have the words and they put the music to it. Some people have the music and put the words to it, and some have a blending of the both, and that's where I am. But so what about you when it comes to the music side of things? Is that the first thing, or is it the words first?
The lyrics usually come first. Beautiful Grace, which is popular on Christian radio right now. I came up with that while I was in my day job, and I was in our staff room considering how to give grace to customers who are not always easy, or how do I give grace to my abuser, and how do I forgive him? So I'm sitting in my staff room trying not to lose it, right? Because I'm feeling pretty rough. And so I was just using my notepad on my phone, rest in all that I face. Like I need that grace to help me keep going in my shift, but also in my day-to-day stuff. And so I will start with a few lines. I always count the syllables of each line, and I'll put the number of those syllables in front. So rest in all that I face. Okay, 6, rest in all that I face. And then I try and come up with other lines with the same syllables or rhythms. And then I can somehow hear the tempo or the rhythm already. Then it's just a matter of how is that going to come out in the music. But that's kind of where I start.
Yeah, and that's great. When you play with those syncopations, you're able to get a consistency within each verse or each chorus. Now, some people like to throw that to the wind and say, I'm going to do this rhythm, and then I'm going to throw it to the wind and try it different, which is different and which is fine. And then that's what I think what I'm finding the more I speak to writers is there's no real rules.
No.
Yeah.
Well, there are and there aren't. It depends what the song is, what you're writing for. If you're just writing a song to give a friend, to encourage them, make it 10 minutes long. Say whatever you want to say. There are no rules there. If you're writing to put it on a CD, attention spans are getting shorter. And the listener doesn't want a 10-minute song. They want 3.5, 4 at the most, maybe 4.5. If you want to get it onto radio, 4 is max. If you send them your disc and it says that it's 4.5 minutes, they won't even listen to it. They now call it a coaster. because they want shorter songs because attention spans are shorter. They want more time for their advertising slots. They want to play as much music as they can in their slots with their advertising. So shorter songs get played easier.
I
So it
was in
depends
radio.
what you're writing it for.
Yeah, I was in radio for 18 and a half years, and the standard was 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, if you're a known artist who has some
Right.
major credibility, 4
Right.
minutes. I mean, seriously, it's. I know exactly what you're saying.
Well, I mean, someone said, well, what about Bohemian Rhapsody? I mean, that thing's almost, okay. But that was written in a time where that music was so out there.
Totally.
Those guys were so out there. It was so weird to the listener at the time that they could get away with it. And the competition wasn't as much.
Right. Well,
it wasn't
was
as
different.
big.
Yeah,
it was totally different.
Yeah,
now it's a different game. Yeah.
Trevor, let's get you in this conversation.
Yeah. I was going to say, back to the capturing the ideas. I found that with the phone recorder, something I've noticed over the years is that, the sparks of ideas will come, but they may only come one time. So you need to just be diligent in capturing them, because I don't know how many times something occurs to me and I'll be like, oh, I'll remember that one later. And then you go do this and that and the other thing, and then it's gone, right? So my part of the diligence in the process for me is just being diligent to capture that. And usually what happens to me is I'll forget about it for like half a year sometimes. And then later I'll be like, oh yeah, that one is nice. Or like what happened actually, Cheryl, for one of the, actually maybe a few of the albums I worked on, is that half of those albums or the ideas for the pieces were little voice memos that had a spark. And I was like, wait a second, that fits into the plan I have. That fits into the story arc I was trying to say in my album. So it's kind of cool that if you capture them, they could come back and become very useful in the present too.
So when you record, now most of your music, Trevor, is instrumental. So when you come up with an idea, do you literally, I'm just asking because I'm trying to visualize this. Do you literally like grab your memo or your phone or whatever, and you're going la da 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 da, like you're literally la-lying through it so that you can remember? And if so, how do you remember all the instruments that you're going to use? I mean, I'm just intrigued by how you do that.
Oh, it's really it's an organic process for sure. I have been gifted, both actually me and my brother have perfect pitch, and so I'm able to know with a general ballpark what the actual notes are. And so I'll hear the melody in my head. And something they actually taught us in school a lot was the ability to hear intervals in your head, which actually allows you to hear a phrase and you know in advance what the notes are. So I found a lot of that is kind of like you can explore that way. But sorry, can you just repeat that one more time, Cheryl? I forgot what you're getting at.
Well, just when you get an idea, and when you have your own idea of what you want to write, or like what something is inspired, I guess, of it's the spark, right? And you said you got to write it down. You got to get some kind of recording.
Right.
The first question is, because your music is all mostly instrumental from what I've heard, I did hear some with vocals, but most of them are instrumental. So do you just do the la 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 through your phone or through the device? That's question one. Question two is, knowing the number of different instruments that you are probably going to use in your music, how do you know which ones are going to be doing what they're going to be doing? Or maybe a better question would be, which instrument is dominant usually when those ideas come up?
Good, yeah. So yeah, the first part, the voice memo, usually sometimes it's piano based. I'll record an idea for a melody or a chord progression. I'll just throw it on there real quick. One of my jobs I used to have was I would well, it's on hold right now due to COVID, but I would accompany ballet classes at the ballet studio, which was very exciting. But sometimes, in between exercises or when the classes are changing, I'd whip out my phone and very quietly hope no one would notice me as I sort of recorded a little voice memo off in the corner to not lose that spark. But then to capture it that way. But then when it comes time to actually flesh it out, for me, it's always, I like to have a process of exploration. And on the computer, I've been fortunate to just be able to collect a lot of sounds and different libraries over the years on my computer. And I remember like, oh, I like the violin from that library, or I like the sound of the drum in this one, or I like the sound of the piano in that one. It kind of just sticks with you a little bit. And usually what happens is from that voice memo, again, I have to go and work it out on paper because I'm trained, like, you have to have a 4-bar phrase and you have to make an answering 4-bar phrase. And it's a much more analytical approach. But usually from there, I'll put it in the computer, like, let's try this with a flute or something like that, and just put it in the computer and then listen to it back and be like, you know what, I think this would work good with a cello underneath it. Let's just try that. Or I think, oh wait, I'm hearing an idea now for maybe a drum part. Let's just try that in there. And so it's kind of this organic following your ears process. And then eventually, like, layer and by layer comes and layer comes, and then another layer comes. And then so this one little thread that came at the very beginning has slowly grown into more of this final ensemble, I guess, if you will, that way. It's like an exploration process, I would say.
Yeah.
Interesting. And Rhonda, you said that you start with your lyrics first. You got the syncopation. And then when the music portion, the music portion that comes under that, is that primarily piano based or
Yes.
keyboard based?
Yes. Yeah. However, with Beautiful Grace, I heard the drum hook before I heard the piano hook. And so I pulled out my phone for a voice memo, did this da 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 da, and I sent it to my producer and I go, hey Mark, this is what I want on it. I want a bunch of toms. I want a bunch of, he's like, what? So, but the next time we were able to meet at his studio, he caught the idea of what I was going for and it worked. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. If you are joining us right now, we are in a conversation with Rhonda Jensen and with Trevor Hewer. Trevor being an instrumental composer, Rhonda a singer-songwriter, both of them with fabulous music. You just got to hear it. They're both on YouTube.
Thank you.
Music from the heart, music that I'm trying to remember Trevor's phrase, which I loved. Music that puts wings to stories and ideas. Did I get it, Trevor?
You got it. Wow.
I love that phrase. You have to listen to this, but we're trying to extract their secrets and how they do what they do. If this is your first time watching, feel free to continue watching. Share this experience if you could, and don't forget to like and subscribe as well. And then you can get to know every single time, get notified when we are putting on these interviews, which are usually on Monday evenings, and they're usually live then. So thanks for being with us. Dale, did you have any questions? I have questions, but hey. Dale, you're muted.
For me, I was thinking from a writer's point of view. If we could look at something that's, if we could boil it down to, like, say, I want to write a song. I want to write a song, but I don't really have any ideas. Like that. I'm defeated before I start. Is there any tools that you can give to somebody who doesn't have a concept to write? Where can they find that inspiration?
Are you asking either of us?
Yes.
Okay. Listen to various kinds of music. Don't just stick to one genre. I listen to a lot of rock radio. I listen to a lot of country, contemporary Christian. So I get different ideas from different genres of music. And then it's like I've said earlier, it usually just starts with an idea. What is my message in this song? And what is that key word or that key phrase that I'll put in the chorus and then build on it or describe it in the verses and reinforce it in the bridge and last chorus. So it builds from there. And then when I add the music, if it's a sadder song, like in Consider Yourself Loved, can you hear my piano at all?
Yes.
We're okay. So I could play just a solid A chord, a 2 chord, but I've put a F sharp under that A to give it some sadness. There's a sadness in that chord. And so in Consider Yourself Loved, I added that. So there's different musically inclined things that you can do to reinforce the message that you're saying, that you're singing.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
great.
adding those minors and sharps and flats
Yeah,
helps to
and
change
then
the dynamic. Yeah.
that's right. And so, and then into the chorus, usually you'll go to the dominant. But what I did was I went up and gave it some surprise. And so there's that hope of, oh,
So you actually
consider yourself loved.
modulated it up.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Right.
Yeah. So instead of just consider yourself loved, it's consider yourself loved. Oh. There's that surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And so
And you
it
also
catches,
did you also change the syncopation of the words too as it lays on top? Because it sounds like you held out some notes longer to give it some difference, which is, I think it's important to understand that the chorus and the verse can be the same melody, but you can sing them a different way.
That's
gives
right.
it a different texture. Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be wordy.
Mm-hmm.
The choruses don't necessarily have to be wordy. Consider yourself loved. It's the chorus is the same 2 lines.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Because then it allows the listener to listen to the message, let it sit with them for a second. And then I repeat it. And then they start to chew on it a little bit more. It gives them, I don't know, just a different grasp on the message that I'm sending.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was just going to jump into that's a great point, Rhonda, about educating yourself and being aware of, like, I would say, just to camp on your point, Rhonda, just, if your ear gravitates to a certain kind of music or even a moment in a song, try and analyze that moment and figure out what happened there. What is it about that moment that you like so much? Is it the way the chords change? Is it a modulation that happened? Is it a syncopation? And then so you know what that is, and now that's a tool in your toolkit that you can now replicate that when you need to.
Yeah, and actually, when we were recording Consider Yourself Loved, Mark, my producer, had me doing the backing vocals. And he wanted me to sing this note that didn't seem to belong. I said, am I not going a whole step down? He said, no, you're just going a half step down. And I thought, okay, I'll just do what he says. He's the producer. And I did it. And it became my favorite note on the whole CD. It's not a piano note. It's not a lead vocal note. It's a backing vocal note where it's this minor sadness to reinforce the love in the song, to reinforce that moment of, oh, I needed that comfort. One little note, one little rhythm, right, can change the mood or reinforce the mood that you're going for.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to just add my one thought too about how to start, kind of get out of the gate, like we're saying for the beginning of your song or your piece, is that, just to go back to Cheryl, like the kind of motto I guess I came up with about stories and ideas. I realized very early on that when you begin a song, it's like it's a blank canvas. You can go anywhere, right? There's like 1,000 choices you could do. What do you do, right? And so I found that for me, I need to know in my mind what story I want to tell. I need to have the story figured out already, the narrative, because then once I have the big idea, almost like playing out like a movie in my mind, that guides my choices at each step. That takes 1,000 choices and narrows it down to like 10. So I find that's my way to keep me focused and on track.
Right.
Very cool. We're looking at also thinking for someone who's just starting out, an inspiration, as Rhonda said, could come from other songs, definitely. And you're listening to structures of the songs and maybe trying to take an essence of that song and make it your own.
Mhm.
Inspiration can come from different areas, maybe leisure, where you're out looking at a sunset, walking on the beach, or
Mhm.
if you're reading a book, or if you're literally just watched a good movie and you thought, oh man, what I got, that just inspires me to think about this and this.
Yeah.
I mean, inspiration
Yeah.
can come from so many different places. So I was just going to wonder if the people who are watching right now, if you're watching and you're saying, I can't do that, well, maybe you just haven't done it yet. So
It's just a matter of paying attention.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all it is, really.
It's true. And there's some people that we've talked to, Cheryl and I have met many writers, and they say, just do it. Just write. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. Just sing us. Anyway, the point is you get a song and you try it. You just do it. Like I have probably written hundreds of songs, and they're not good. But
Right?
but you know, we all have those songs. We're like, I'm not going to do anything with that one. But and that's okay, because
Yeah.
it's like you got to practice. You got to
Right.
work. It's like I do painting. I love to draw. I love to sketch. But not every painting I do or drawing is good for anybody to see. You know, so
Right.
you know.
I've heard it said,
I
just
know
turn on the tap.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can't just turn it
I know
on and off like a faucet.
exactly
Yeah.
what you're talking about. I thought I had a really clever song. It wasn't a Christian song. It wasn't a gospel song. It was just a stupid, funny, fun song to share at a show. And I was playing up in Northern Alberta. I was doing background music for this couple's night out. They were having their dinner.
Mhm.
And so I shared this song and I thought it was so funny and clever, and there were crickets. I'm like, they were looking at me like completely confused. I scrapped that one. I got
Yeah.
home and said, yeah, that's not happening ever again. Don't need to spend money on recording
Right.
it. Yeah, you just write to write. You just need write to get to practice. It doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent. If you keep doing it badly, you'll keep doing it badly. So learn from other writers. Hang out with different people.
I think
really
it's
enjoy.
key what you said when you were younger. You started writing poetry. If there's someone who wants to learn how to write songs, poetry is the best way to start.
Yeah.
It helps you understand rhythm, rhyme, syncopation, and all that type of stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not journal writing. Like my songs are musical diaries, but they're tweaked, they're crafted. I'm not going to put everything I wrote in my journal in that song. It has to be rewritten in a way that it's going to be a message anybody can understand, not such a personal message.
Yeah. Well, let me just remind those people who are watching, thank you so much for watching us. We are on Gospel Music Industry Hub, and we're doing songwriting, and we are capturing the emotion in music, and that's our theme for today. And so there's different sources that you can draw from to be in the moment, to take those particular emotions and convey those to those who are listening. So we want to also to challenge you to go look at all the videos that we have on the GMI Hub. On the GMI Hub, there's a library of interviews from amazing people, just like these lovely people we have here today, and they have an amazing resource of information for you to check out. So please take advantage of that, and also share the experience. Please tell somebody else about what's going on here. If you think you know a musician or an artist who would be interested in what we have to offer, let them know. And make a comment, if you could, underneath here, and talk to us. We'd love to hear from you. Maybe you could tell us what you would like to hear on here. We want to know what information you were looking for, any questions, and we will find out the answer, because Cheryl and I have a resource of people we can draw from. Even if we don't know the answer ourselves, we can find out the answer. So please leave a comment, ask a question down below here, and that'd be fantastic. And don't forget to hit the notification bell and like the video, and that would really help us out. Thank you so much. All right, let's get back to our questions. Cheryl?
I'm wondering if we can kind of do a live, if we can do this as possible. I want to think of either a situation or a story, and kind of pick your brains, both of you, on how you would musically demonstrate that, whether it's through words or through instruments or both, right? So I'm trying to think now. So I can use something as simple as taking a walk through the forest and reflecting on the goodness of God. I don't know. It's not exciting, but it's something, right? So what would you do musically for that? Kind of a reflecting, contemplative, I guess it would be, walking through the forest. What would you do musically for that?
I got. Oh, sorry. You can go ahead, Rhonda.
Thank you. First of all, it would be in a major key. Minor keys are more of the sadness, gut wrenching. I want answers. It would be in a major key. I would use higher octave notes, maybe to bring the ear, like you're outside and you're looking at the open sky, right? So you're opening up your eyes or your thoughts to something else other than yourself or what you're feeling at the moment.
That's funny. I've got almost the exact same picture, Rhonda. So it's funny.
Yeah.
When we think forest, I think of instead of open sky, though, I'm thinking sort of like a canopy cover and like a bright sun. But you know how you look up and you see the sun kind of just filtering through, kind of shining, just poking through the different leaves.
Those cascading rays through the leaves of the trees. Yeah.
That's right. I'm thinking of that, and just like like you said, it's a happier feel. I start thinking about textures straight away. I think like a held strings, maybe lightly. I think it's called a trem. Oh boy, I just know a short form, tremming strings, where they just maybe just are lightly just mimicking that same picture on the strings, just a high chord, and then maybe some very sparse, kind of bright piano chords just in the top to kind of just set the atmosphere. Nothing really heavy, no real sense of time signature, but just kind of to open up the scene before you.
Mm-hmm.
The chords, like I was already picturing it the way you did it, and I had the exact same picture. You guys captured it, it's like, how would you do the leaves? So that tremoring, Trevor, that you're talking about would be that trim of the string.
Tremolo, that's the word I forgot.
Say tremola?
Tremolo.
Say that one more time.
Tremolo. Sorry, tremolo. I'm saying it weird.
Sure, that one. So you would use that to represent, say, the leaves fluttering, and the major chord. Would it be major chords for both of you? So the major chords, not necessarily in a specific time signature, but that would be like the rays coming through. Major chord was also the sense of hope. Is that right, Rhonda?
Yeah.
And the higher register too. Like when you said forest, immediately I took it as like nighttime forest. So I was thinking lower. But as soon as you said daytime bright, I was like, oh, you just flip up immediately. I think higher register, same as Rhonda.
Yeah, you're setting the ambiance.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. If it was a nighttime scene, it would be a lower, maybe more mysterious. Yeah.
So would that be any minor chords, or would that still be major if it was
maybe
a dark forest?
Maybe. It depends where the song is going.
Okay.
Lyrically. But maybe it does, or even in just an instrumental, maybe it does start out with this minor of, wow, I'm lost. I lost my trail. I don't know
lost
where
in
I
the
went.
woods.
I do a lot of hiking. I get that. But yeah, maybe starting out in a minor sound to set a tone of feeling lost or unsure of which trail to take, or being alone.
Yeah.
Maybe you're feeling lonely somehow and you're wishing you were with someone or someone specific. What do you think, Trevor?
A dark woods would probably be a frightening experience, probably, if you're by yourself, because all the noises that you hear, you don't know you can't see. Yeah. I like the daytime one better. It's more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so just for Dale, we'll do a real fun one. Let's just say, okay, another scenario. At a fair or at a circus, and just taking in all the different, I don't know, the rides that are going on, or the masses of people going back and forth, the cotton candy, I don't know, Dale, think of some happy thoughts there.
Well, there's the whole the run. What do you call that? The midway with all the
Midway.
games and all the prizes and all this and the excitement and the musical that might happen and the clowns juggling and all the whatever you can think of, all the things that were going on around you. That's inspiring someone to have a song that may be more up. But what would you do with that?
For that one, I immediately think like polka accordion.
Oh, yeah, the big roundabout, right? Yeah, the big roundabout. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
something
polka
definitely more up tempo. Bop, 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 bop,
Yeah.
bop, bop, you know, kind of that circuit. There's the busyness of the crowd noise. So maybe you've got some other weird strings or some, I don't know. Actually, in one of my songs, early recording days, we used a rain stick. And we kept tipping it on its end to keep it going. And then I'm not sure what the engineer did, but he equalized it to a point where it sounded like rustling leaves.
Oh.
And so it was a song about walking my sons to school, and we were walking through these leaves. So that's what we did.
Yeah, I can
again,
see that.
It was a song that wasn't released. It was never recorded for CD. It was a personal thing just to have. Yeah.
And now I'm gonna tap into some specific songs that I think each of you have done. Trevor, you did one called, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get the name wrong. But I'm thinking To the Stars. It almost sounded like, I don't know if it was the whole album was To the Stars. Was
It
that
was,
right?
yeah.
And there was one song that was called To the Stars. Is that correct?
No, that was the second album had a track that was named the same thing, but the Stars, I think the last one was We're Going Home, or I forget the names now too of the tracks.
That's okay. I was just thinking of, how did you get that idea? Was that something someone told you to do, or you just had the idea of what would it be like to go to the stars and trying to imagine that?
Well, I guess it's kind of a story that resonated with me. I don't know. I've been a big sci-fi fan since my early days. You know, you always wonder about space travel, and getting the big thumbs up from Dale.
I'm a big sci-fi guy. I love that stuff. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, and then a couple, I don't know, it was about a year or so ago. Do you guys remember all those, like, they were selling tickets to Mars or something like that? You remember it was like one-way tickets to Mars or whatever, and just thinking like, wow, it's like, we're really trying to make a go for it here. And so I kind of just allowed my mind to wander, and just and going back to an earlier point about, I was educated, so to speak. I had all these, scenes from sci-fi movies in my head. So I kind of imagined, like, what would it be like for like a crew to go off and, like, they're in search of a planet? What would they find? Would they run out of supplies? Would they decide, this mission is not worth it, let's turn around home? And then that became my, like, let's explore this story. And then each song became different stages, or each track became different stages in that project.
Imagine if there was a movie called that. You would just have the music there, right there.
That'd be great.
Just call Hollywood.
That's right.
Okay, and Rhonda, I'm gonna tap into Brave Girl. I mean,
Sure.
I have to, because when I listened to the song, and I was moved by that. Then I saw the video, and I was like this. Like this, watching this video. And I mean, and it's I know you may think it's nothing, but I mean, even though it's simple, I guess what I was seeing the emotion in there. I was seeing fear, I was seeing stress, I was seeing, I don't know, like someone who just wanted to hide and not face the world in some ways, but looking for hope. And then I thought it was so beautiful. I'm probably giving this away. I probably shouldn't. But, when I saw something really beautiful in it that was a game changer for me, which is, it was you in there, and you walked in to this little church, and you were wearing a black jacket, but when you were
Mhm.
leaving, it's like you took the black jacket off, you put this red one on and was like, I'm free, like kind of thing.
Yeah,
And I just want you to just share your story behind all of that.
sure.
That's okay.
I have released songs that were way easier to release, obviously. Brave Girl is written out of my own experience with sexual abuse and emotional abuse in the music industry. A lot of gaslighting, grooming. And so I'm still healing. I'm still in the healing stages, but I wrote it as an encouragement to myself to heal. I had a bracelet that I made for myself. It had brave in it in little beaded letters. But I'm not into charms. I don't really believe in charms anyway, but it was just a reminder to be brave, to be out in public around men. And then I knew this bracelet's not enough. I need to write something for myself for a change, to encourage myself to heal. And so I did. And then when I finished writing it, I knew, I have a really good supportive husband who was patient and didn't need to know every detail right away. And through his job, I have been able to have counseling, which is so important, to be able to go to talk to someone who is trained to listen in a way that can help you. And when I reflected on that, I knew there's a lot of women and girls that have neither. And I needed to release this song to share the story that of their worth. They, if you have been emotionally or physically or sexually abused, you are not what has been done to you. That was a hard lesson for me. It sometimes still is. I still get nervous around men sometimes. And in the video, I asked the director, before I walk into the church, can I sit somewhere in the corner or something? And so, yes, there's that image of me walking into the church yard, and then sitting kind of in the corner by the entrance, just this hesitation of, I know I need God's help, but I'm going to have to be vulnerable. I'm going to have to say all these things that I don't even want to admit for myself. And then that final decision of, okay, I'll go in this church and I'll see what he has to offer me. The black, you're very right, very good eye there, Cheryl. The black symbolized that grief of losing who I was, losing my identity, not having self-confidence, just a number of things. And then walking through and spending time just reflecting and then learning my worth. The Bible is open on purpose to a specific passage that has helped me heal and understand my identity in God, in Jesus. And then having the cross there, putting that cross on symbolized accepting the way he sees me. Not just his grace and forgiveness, but the way he sees me. And I when I first met with the director, I said, okay, here's the idea I have for this video. Let me know if this works. So we were in the food court and I said, okay, I want to walk in with this black jacket. I want to spend time reflecting, showing that grief and sadness and pain, but accepting my identity in God. And when I walk in, it's completely bare. There's nobody there, nothing there. But when I turn around, I want a red jacket sitting there, red representing bravery. I want it sitting there as if God said, here, put that on instead. She loved it. I said, okay, then that's what we'll do. And so that's what we did. I have a few blooper shots of me trying to get my jacket on because it was a pretty emotional day. but yeah, the symbolism of leaving the black, leaving what I thought I only was, and putting on that brave, putting on that new identity that I can remind myself to go with. What's also very cool about that video is that when we filmed, the entire day was so windy. Those Alberta Chinook winds, when they pick up, it's heavy, heavy windy. And so we struggled in that wind, which really only added to the drama, which was, it worked. And then we were in the church filming inside the church, and we noticed through the window the sun coming through, and we're like, get out, is the sun coming? And so we all ran through the church. We opened the front door and we're like, we gotta shoot. And we were so tired, we hadn't really taken a break, but we just quickly got our stuff ready, and coming out with that sun breaking through at just the right moment for the song was beautiful. It was all of it. It was beautiful.
It was.
Yeah.
I think that you're hitting on also an interesting subject about visualizations when it comes to song. It's not unlike the musicality in the song. You visually can see using imagery. When it comes to music, you use tones and keys and instruments to set the mood as well. Very interesting that you were talking about that, because I think it relates not only visually but musically to the song as well.
Yeah, actually, the original composition, the piano was completely different. The pre-chorus was, brave girl, know that I see you. And then it went into this chorus with lower notes. I sent it to Mark, my producer, and he goes, that pre-chorus should be the chorus. Brave girl. And I'm like, ooh, that would be cool. So he helped me rearrange it a little bit, and it became this beautiful, musically a realization. In the first couple of choruses, there's a sadness to it. Then his idea was, what if the very last chorus, it explodes? We don't put any instruments in except for like the piano, maybe some strings, but in the last chorus, everybody's in. We've got the drums, we've got the bass, we've got the guitar doing some cool riffs in there, and let it really explode. And it took me a second. Again, you have to be humble as a songwriter. You have to accept some changes and some, criticism once in a while, because maybe they do have a very good idea and it might be better. I heard what he was saying, and I looked at him and I said, so in the first two choruses, she's trying to be brave. And in the last chorus, she knows she's brave. And he goes, that's it. That's what we're going for. I said, okay. And I wasn't there myself emotionally. So it was a challenge of recording the piano, but mostly the vocals, of having that mental and emotional strength to belt that out in confidence.
Now, you did say something that was really important. I hope it doesn't get lost for people, that when you have a producer who has a song, a producer who wants to produce your song, and you have your song. I remember analogy of producer said, sometimes as an artist, we give them the song and we give it to them like this instead of like this.
Yeah.
We have to consider it. If you put faith and trust in your producer to make the song the best it can be, sometimes you have to let it go. And Rhonda, that was probably a tough decision, but it's a hard decision to make, but you knew and you trusted. And so for some artists, that might be a challenge.
You're right. And I was very much like that in the very beginning when I released my first 2 CDs and maybe some singles there. I was pretty offended that they wanted to change my songs, right? But over time learned, no, they're there to help you. And what I do is I use the analogy of an architect. So I have the idea of a house or song that I want to do, that I want to build on. So I take it to my architect and go, hey, this is what I want. And he He looks at each room, he goes, or song, and goes, that might work, that might not work. That might work in the song, that might not work in the song. And so they help redesign it in a way that I can understand. They may demonstrate a little bit in the studio on their guitar or on their piano. They may play some drum hooks. They may play some bass hooks to complement the message in it. And we work together as architect and homeowner or producer and songwriter. And then in the end, you've got this beautiful house that you never thought it could look like. You have a CD or song that you never thought it could sound that good. So choosing your producer is extremely important. Your personal relationship actually is more important than the music itself. There's definitely a trust because, yeah, I mean, Mark and I had never met. I knew I wanted to make a CD about Brave Girl. So I walk in and, 2 or 3 hours later, I thought, I've lost this guy. Like, he's just not going to want to do a song like Brave Girl. He had gone to his wife and that evening said, boy, this is going to be a big one. This is going to be a little bit tougher, but in his personality and mine, we complemented each other. And it was a beautiful setup.
I would echo that same point too, that I've heard the phrase humility goes a long way. And for me, it's very hard to hear corrections sometimes. I'll send it to, I know sometimes I'll send it to friends who I know are very technical, and they'll come back and be like, you might want to, I know you like that snare part, but it's just not happening. Right. And sometimes it's very hard to hear those words, but you have to sort of learn to, and I'm still learning to do this, to look past that sort of setback, but it'll actually take you farther, right?
Definitely.
If you're willing to receive criticism from people who are, even if you can find people who are better or know more or know something different than you, to hear their attitude, it'll only help things take your things farther along.
Now, some criticism you can toss pretty easily. I had somebody criticize me on Brave Girl. Well, what makes her brave? And I was feeling pretty crushed about it. And my husband reminded me, it's a guy. He doesn't understand what you've gone through. He wouldn't understand. And when I even just sent the lyrics to a couple of friends who I know have had a similar experience, they texted and just were weeping, like, Rhonda, you get it. So not every criticism needs to be taken to heart either.
Yeah, there's the old phrase, consider the source. Whenever it comes to anything musical in your life, the personal relationship you have with the person giving that input is vital.
Very. There's a trust there. It is your personal diary. Like, okay, because they want to know why you wrote it. Why did you write this song? Because then that helps them pull out the emotion of what you're saying, the message that you want to get across. That would give them ideas of what instruments to use. Maybe it's something a little more peppy, like circus music. Hey, let's use the accordion. Let's use whatever. And so it gives them some insight as to what kind of sound you want as well.
Yeah. Now, and this is a question I've asked other writers too. You find that if you sit down, well, you probably sit down the piano more often when you write, but if you sit with the bass instrument being like your piano, or your bass instrument being your guitar, or your bass instrument maybe being something else, it changes the tone or the writing, the way you write the song. So that might be something that you could use as a tool. If you're thinking about writing a song, I want to write a song, I got it broken down, I want to have this emotion, what instrument should I use? That's another way.
It's true. I wrote one of my songs, Show Me the Way, for piano. There's a lot of broken chords and triads and whatever in it. But Mark decided, why don't we give the lead instrument to acoustic guitar, let him do some picking and give it some rhythm. And so all I do in it is play solid chords.
Bringing those pads
to
in.
Complement, to complement what he's doing. And we actually listened to the demo. I listened to it at home and I texted him and I said, okay, I'm bored with this song. Like, again, I had to be willing to change it right? I didn't have to be married to it. And so I texted him and said, I'm bored with that chorus. We need to rewrite that chorus. And he agreed. He's like, yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. I wasn't sure how you felt about it. So we rewrote it, and it is way better. I listen to the old voice memos of it now and go, wow, that's boring. That's, yeah.
Well, I find it just because you're kind of helping me get to my next point. We're going to talk about collaboration now. When it comes to collaboration, what is the great is there a reason for it in your particular music?
I have not done any co-writing with anybody outside of the studio. Like I've never had anyone over to the house, especially in COVID, to do any songwriting with me. It usually happens in the studio where we go, this song needs to be cut down to 3.5 minutes. We don't need these extra lines that already describe that first line. Co-writing for me is more in the studio. It's with the producer that I've hired. Actually, sometimes it's just a funny line. I go to a songwriting group once in a while here in Calgary. And my friend Kevin there, he's a really fun, quirky guy. And I said, hey, Kev, how are you doing? We're just grabbing our chairs for the evening, right? And he goes, I need something between Sweet and Low and Cocaine. And I just thought, wow, that's quite a line. So the speaker started, they're talking. I'm like, that's a line, Sweet and Low and Cocaine. So I'm on my phone, on my notepad, not paid attention, writing this song called Sweet and Low and Cocaine. And I text it to him. He pulls his phone. He looks at me. He's like, what? And so a few months later, we met again at this songwriting group, and he pulls out his guitar. He's like, hey, Rhonda, you want to hear a new song? And I'm like, no, you didn't. And he wrote this song that suits him. It's never a song that I could do because it's not my story or my feel, but it fits him perfectly. And he says he gets a lot of reaction. He tweaked it, to make it his own. But sometimes co-writing just sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
Trevor, how about you? Do you ever co-write as well, or no?
Not too regularly, but I have before. And at the time I'm thinking is when a childhood friend, also a musician, used to live just around the corner from where I live, and we'd occasionally get together. And he was also a keyboard player into computer music. And I think a big part of, how I write is kind of like I'll try and do some work on a certain day and then put it away and sort of sleep on it and listen to it again the next day. And when I have fresh ears, usually I'll have fresh ideas at that point, right? Yeah. But I realized with this friend over is that process actually happens twice as fast, because I'm doing something which is fresh to him. He has an idea on the spot, and then he sends something back to me, which is fresh again. And then it's just this feedback process. So I can find that you can sort of get ahead if you're feeling sort of creatively a little stuck sometimes. If you have someone over who's, everybody's got different musical opinion or musical ways of expressing. So like, I think you might find very quickly that you're out of a rut and you're getting ahead by leaps and bounds sometimes. If it's a good, this was a very close friend of mine, so we knew each other very well, like that relationship aspect, like we're saying before. But I find sometimes that sort of creativity process can go ahead by leaps and bounds sometimes, almost too fast.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. You hit the nail on the head there, because 2 heads are better than one. And you're right about you get that time to process your song. When you're 2 people, you're processing faster. It's very true.
Now, for both of you, do you mostly write songs for or from yourself, or do people come to you and say, can you write a song about, how does it work for you both?
Actually, Show Me the Way it came from, a number of years ago. One of the pastors came to me and said, would you write a song about serving in the church or missions? And so at the time, I had an interesting bar ministry. I would go out and see buddies play in the bar, and I'd end up talking about Jesus with people in the booth. So that kind of snuck up on me. But so one of the lines in this song was, I don't know why you've called me to something I never considered I'd do. But I made it generalized enough that it could relate to the Sunday school teacher, the music leader, the pastor, the ushers, missionaries, whatever. And so I was able to write this song about service, serving God either in the church or outside as the church, and then share it with the congregation. And it landed on the CD years later. But yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think just to answer the question too, I find with my own kind of album projects, it's usually an idea that is very sort of taken a hold of me at the time, that I just need to find a way. Sometimes I find music is the only way to express a certain idea and to sort of get out what I'm trying to say. And so usually I find my writing comes from when I believe very deeply in the message that I'm trying to get across, because it's very genuine. I think it just translates, my job as a composer is I think of myself as a communicator. And for when I really believe and really resonate with the subject, it'll allow me even better to communicate with the listener. But then to sort of flip the corner, I've been able to do just a few small scale documentaries, and that's the case where it's not your ideas anymore, but someone says, here's my idea, boom, and then what do you do, right? And so I find coming to those projects, it was a lot of sort of soaking myself in the facts. Like one of them was about the Syrian refugee crisis, which I actually didn't know much about at the time. But then so I started researching it and just sort of being aware of what's happening. And then I would visit the filmmaker, and she would share firsthand, like, oh, we saw these experiences, we saw this. And then now all of a sudden, then I'm starting to resonate with it. So I find I'm not in the place to write the music about something until I'm already internally resonating with it. And then the communication can flow from there.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I like that statement. Yeah.
So can maybe we could wrap up our time together, but I wanted to ask a few more questions. One in particular is the latest song that you've just released. Can we talk about that one?
It's called Something Better, and it's actually not a song I wrote. It was just a song that I really liked by a band called Silverline. I don't believe they're together anymore, but it was written by Ben Casca. He used to play with Skillet, and Chris Klontz, who's with Decipher Down, and Ryan Edberg, who is now a pastor in Nashville. But we were in touch with these guys, and they gave permission for me to release it on CD, and it's now on radio. But before that, Beautiful Grace was released to radio in October. Calgary's Shine FM has been very good to me. They've been great. Appreciate it.
Tell me about Beautiful Grace. Tell me about the
Beautiful
song.
Grace. Well, that is the one that I wrote in the staff room, where I was trying to figure out how to forgive my abuser. I've learned over the years or been reminded over the years, we're all God's creation. And when Jesus hung there, he didn't just think of me, he thought of my abuser too. That's hard to swallow.
Yeah.
And I had to learn how to see that guy as one of God's, and learning how to think of him as an equal I didn't know how to do that on my own. And I needed God's grace to help me do that. Now, am I still angry sometimes? Of course. Am I still in pain? Sometimes, yeah. But when it comes to not being bitter, retaliating, I'm not harassing him. Like, you know what I mean? It's grace means, that doesn't mean you have to be buddy-buddy with somebody. If they've had a pattern of hurting you, family member or friend or whoever, if they've had a pattern of hurting you, there's steps that you need to take to protect yourself and keep yourself healthy, mentally healthy. But to forgive them takes a lot of grace. And then in the day-to-day, having God's grace to continue my day job, to continue my ministry, rest in all that I face, right?
Yeah, I find that God has put something in my heart to forgive somebody. I can love them, but I don't have to like
Right. Right. And you don't, and that doesn't mean you have to spend time with them as
exactly.
much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Trevor? What's the latest song that you've got?
Oh, I just
Sorry,
have to.
Rhonda, were you finished? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, when I was learning how to forgive, that didn't mean I learned that I didn't have to explain myself to them, right? When Jesus started his ministry and he went to his hometown, because who else would listen better? You go back to the people that know you, right? Turns out they didn't really like what he had to say. But Jesus didn't stay in Nazareth and try and convince everybody. He knew there were going to be people that liked it and there were going to be people that didn't. And he just left. Okay, well, I've given you who I am. I've told you who I am. You can do with that as you like. And he gave them that grace to make their own decision and move on to where he knew his Father would use them.
Yeah. I'm glad you
Go
finished
ahead,
that thought. That was really good. Trevor?
Good. Well, mine is not so noble a story. I actually, so we're talking about voice memos. So my latest piece came out on October 3rd, which was actually the day I got married this past fall.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So what I did, I thought it was a great idea, by the way. My wife is also very musical, and she would send me little voice phone memos of her playing on the piano, of just ideas she had. And one of her pieces that she sent was called A New Beginning. And I was just like, I think we could do something with this. So I actually borrowed, she actually came up with the chord progression, the melodies, it's all just piano based. And then I just did that, sort of added strings, and I hear drums here, let's try that. And so I did that and stole the idea from her and gave it to her as a wedding present, which
That
was
is
met
so
with
cool.
a
You didn't really steal it. You kind of borrowed it then. You gave it back to her.
Yeah, I gave her the credit.
No, it
in
was
the
a
end.
co-write. It was a collaboration.
It was a co-write. There you
It was
go.
a co-write she
go.
knew nothing about. So yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's great.
That must have been beautiful. So, a question as I was hearing you both share, one question that came to mind is, if I'm going to kind of camp on the beautiful grace or just grace of God. If neither of you could speak audibly, but you had to communicate the grace of God through music, what would you do?
I immediately think of something that's rising. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what kind of tone it would be or how you would accomplish it, but I just think of maybe you have some kind of pedal tone on the bottom, but then some kind of texture that's rising on top, and that's kind of just this slow kind of uplifting texture. And I'm not sure how to do that. I'd have to maybe just hit record on my phone and just say like, okay, let's figure out how do you make rising happen, and just, I don't know if it's going up scales or something, but I just think of that gesture, rising.
We actually did that musically in the vocals in Beautiful Grace. Your grace, right? So that's how we complemented the lyric.
I find it amazing that you both are in totally different provinces. You do totally different music, but yet you have similar patterns on how you would do something. I think that's so awesome. I'm hoping that everyone is getting this, and that this has been enlightening. I've enjoyed listening to both of you, sharing your stories, sharing your thoughts. I know there's always this one question we always like to ask, which is, and Dale's clapping his hands. He's so happy. If you had three tips that you would want to give to songwriters that are wanting to write and they want to capture their story, their idea, or an emotion, their musical diary, so to speak. If they wanted to capture that what advice would you give them? What are 3 tips that you could give them to help them out?
Well, I wrote down three words earlier to help me remember. The words for me are exploring, learning, and caring. And so the word exploring for me means never stop exploring your ideas. Like we said earlier, just turn on the tap, just keep that process. It's an adventure. Don't let yourself, don't tire in the adventure. Keep going, right? Keep exploring. And then learning, which is like we talked about listening to music that you really resonate with and learning what makes it work, so you can have it in your toolkit. And then caring, it's very interesting. Today, in sort of the context here, I wrote it as actually self-care, caring for yourself. And for me, that means, I won't be able to think of these ideas if haven't slept well the night before, if I've stayed up too late, or for me, I have to drag myself outside and go for a walk each day because I realize that I'm thinking clearer after I walk, right? So it's kind of a holistic care so that those ideas can form quicker, something like that.
Yeah, I would agree with getting out to in solitude, so
Yes.
that you're not distracted from someone else. Or that's my hiking in the mountains. Usually once every week or 2 weeks, getting alone, being completely alone. Yeah.
So your 3 tips, Rhonda, would be get alone.
Well, do it often, like we were saying. Just write a line. Do something every day. Just write a line. Think of a word or a funny phrase, or maybe it was something that someone said. Just pay attention. My song "Nothing More Beautiful" came from Franklin Graham crusade, and we were watching everybody come to the front to pray and accept Christ as Savior. And my friend Sherry and I are just bawling. And she goes, "There's nothing more beautiful." Light bulb. And I pulled up my phone, and I didn't write it for another 6 months, but I paid attention. I was paying attention to what was being said or done around me. But doing it as a craft, like really working at switching up lyrics, switching up chords or the music or the tempo. Maybe it needs to be slower, maybe it needs to be faster. Just experimenting, lots of experimenting, working with other people to broaden your sound or your ideas. But most importantly, you have to be authentic. The audience, they're not stupid. If I was up on stage singing Sweet and Low and Cocaine, no one would buy it because it's not me. It doesn't reflect who I am. Brave Girl does. And as you know, not every song needs to go public. Maybe you just write it for your own healing, or maybe you write it for someone else, but be authentic. Say what you want to say in a way you want to do it, because that's what people want.
Wow, fabulous. We've had a great conversation on the GMIHub tonight, talking about songwriting, capturing emotions in music. And we want to thank you for watching. This is on our YouTube channel, GMIHub Online, and you can see a lot of different videos that we have there from our past interviews. And we'd like you to remember to go and check them all out and see which ones will best fit your needs. And if you have a friend of yours who is in the music industry, or maybe is a musician, an artist starting out, maybe this would be a great share for you to give to them. So share the experience. And so while you're here, please chat in the chat and say hello and drop us a question. We would like to know what questions we can cover, what topics we need to cover to help you. So please let us know. Also, hit the notification bell and like this, and subscribe, all that stuff is really important to us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Trevor and Rhonda, for being here. And I echo Dale, thank you for watching. Remember, GMIHub is here to encourage unity, community, mentorship, and talent growth. If you want to know more about us, also go ahead and visit our website, gospelmusicindustryhub.com. We will be back next week. But for now, we want to say God bless and hope you have a great